All right, guys, welcome to another edition of Ballin in the Boot here. We're finally on the select side. It took us a while, but we're finally to the select side of the bracket after finishing non-select. You can go and we're doing the Macarena here, Grant. We
I
gotta
don't
get
know what that was.
somehow.
We're all delirious at this point.
Yeah, as you can tell, we've done a lot of these so far. So make sure to go and check out all of them at groundfootballusa.com, and also make sure to go to our YouTube channel and subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. So we go to Division One Select, and there's a lot of big time names here. We're going to go through it, and a lot of stuff has happened in the second round. We'll go through it at the bottom side of the bracket, but at the top of it. And the car, just doing end the car things. Another day at the office, nothing too much. 56-6, taking care of business against a Huntington team that's had a good season, but that's a tall task to ask for going up against end the car. 56-6 was the final score of that one. And they'll take on St. Thomas More. What a way to lose the game here. St. Aug had a chance to tie the football game, reminiscent of what we saw from the Commanders and Cowboys on Sunday. Missed extra point. Had a chance to tie at 28, but missed the extra point. So gut wrenching loss for St. Aug. Now St. Thomas More. Congratulations, you got Ed in the car, but St. Thomas More. I mean, this isn't a shabby football.
Wait! You said congratulations to St. Thomas More.
I know.
Congratulations are meant for teams.
Weird.
Congratulations are meant for teams that are absolutely screwed. St. Thomas More is not absolutely. They may be screwed, but they're not absolutely screwed.
It doesn't sound right. I mean, St. Thomas More is a great program. Has won state championships. They won back-to-back state championships. But
They're not gonna. Let's just get into this. They're not gonna be afraid of the car.
yeah, they're not.
No, they're not.
They're not going to be afraid, but we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it back.
Yeah.
Of course, this has to happen. Every year, Rumble and Catholic have to play each other, and somehow they have to play again. They just always have to meet each other in the playoffs some way, one way or another. But Rumble was able to take care of business against McDonogh 35. Norman Taylor had 4 touchdowns in that win over McDonogh 35. When we talk about Catholic, they took care of business 42-0 against East Jefferson. That sets up what should be a very fun matchup between Catholic and Rumble on the top side of the bracket. On the bottom side of the bracket, how about upsets, man? I said, like, everybody was saying, Candiana was going to win and all that. Now, I did pick Candiana as well, but I said, hey, not so fast on this one with John Curtis, because John Curtis also runs the Veer. JT Curtis is the greatest coach of all time. Like, it's not going to be a cakewalk everybody was talking about. And John Curtis did beat them. They went over there, made the travel to Lafayette, took on a really good Acadiana team, and beat them. And they won on a throwing fashion as well. With 10 seconds left, freshman Jarvis Stevenson scored a game-winning touchdown on a 22-yard pass. Like I said, 10 seconds left from Reggie Johnson to Stevenson for the game-winning touchdown. It was actually John Curtis's passing game that won them at the very end. We're talking about Acadiana's passing game. So congratulations to John Curtis. They actually have to go back to Lafayette because they'll take on Turling's Catholic, the number 6 seed, who won and defeated a really good Jesuit team. And a lot of people were talking about the upset here. Turling's Catholic avoid the upset, got the 31-23 win over a really good Catholic League team in Jesuit. They have to do the same thing again and win the upset against another really good Catholic League team in John Curtis to try to advance to the semifinals. How about C.E. Bird? I mean, a statement. Going on the road, taking on St. Paul's. Grant talked about how C.E. Bird is one of those teams in Shreveport that's been making deep playoff runs they've had, and they were able to defeat St. Paul's, a veteran St. Paul's team in one district this year, 37-15. Now they'll take on Alexandria Ash, who made a statement defensively. Really crushing the Evangel Christian Pop Houston. That offense, we talk about that offense all year long, who scored 58 points against Captain Shreve. They only held them to 6 points, and their offense really doing Ash things. 49 points. I mean, JT Lindsay, Carson Sellers, their offense is rolling. But to have that defensive performance, that's showing you why Ash is a state championship caliber team. So your quarterfinal matchup, Ash will take on C.E. Bird. Game will be played at Ash. Turlings Catholic will take on John Curtis. That'll be an intriguing playoff matchup. Game will be played at Turlings because John Curtis, disregard the seeding, John Curtis is John Curtis. And then Catholic will take on Rumble. That will be a great playoff matchup. A lot of controversy last year how that one ended, but Rumble will get their chance at a rematch at the same location at Memorial Stadium. And then Endicott will take on St. Thomas More. The first tough task Endicott has in this playoff against St. Thomas More, won back-to-back state championships. So, guys, let's go right into it with this quarterfinal playoff pairings. We're talking about Endicott. They've been really dominating teams all season long on the way to a Catholic League title. But the one thing that has eluded them in 5A is winning a state championship. So their first really tough task is St. Thomas More. They made the jump from Division II, where they won back-to-back state championships, to Division I. So, Grant, how you see this one faring out? Because St. Thomas More has been a great program under Jim Hightower, and it's going to be a great coaching matchup between Bryce Brown and Jim Hightower. Where do you see this one? Do you have Endicott rolling, or can St. Thomas More really give them some troubles and perhaps even make an upset here?
So, I got Carr on this one. I think this will be a very interesting game. I think St. Thomas More will make it very interesting at first. St. Thomas More is one of the top better offenses right now. Cole Bergeron and the rest of the offense is really starting to click. Last week, they got a little bit of a scare against a St. Aug team that is figuring themselves out, and they nearly got the game to overtime. But of course, which is kind of a recurrent theme in the history of St. Aug is a mixed extra point. It's blocked. Actually, the kick was blocked. It was blocked. Really happened against Rummel too. Against Rummel, they had the potential game-winning touchdown. And if they make the extra point, the game's going. St. Aug has to leave with like less than 30 seconds left to go in the game.
Yeah.
But then that kick got blocked. There's kind of a recurrent theme in St. Aug's history.
To your point, real quick, like the St. Aug Karen Crow game I was at, it was 44-7. They missed all their extra points, so it was even a struggle in that game too. And to your point,
yeah. But I mean, Carr. But Carr, on the other hand, I mean, they're going to make all their extra points. They don't make the same mistakes that St. Aug may make. Because right now, St. Aug's going through a transitionary year, right? Because they got a new head coach and everything. And Coach Valdez is an awesome coach. But I think St. Thomas More, this is the first time they probably had to play a team like Endicott, where there's just not only are they finesse, but they're also physical as well. They can win in so many different ways. And Carr has not had a one possession game all year, really, if you think about it, in terms of the final score. No, they've had some games where, of course, Jesuit, they won 21-9. That shows you a lot about Jesuit's defense too, how good Jesuit's defense was this year. But then also that Rummel game was back and forth up until midway through the second quarter, and that's when Carr started to kill him. I think that final score ended up being 69-28. But we got the big Carr in this one. I'll probably say it's along the lines of like 35-24, something like that.
Yeah.
I think St. Thomas More will make it interesting at the start, but I think Carr will pull away near the end.
I agree with you, Grant. I mean, I think it'll be close because St. Thomas More is not going to be intimidated. They play these type of teams early in the year. I mean, they've been a state championship team, so their program's not going to be intimidated by Endicott. But Endicott, I think, just has too much talent. I think they will just overwhelm St. Thomas More late in this football game. Like you mentioned, Grant, Endicott, they're not a one-trick pony. They can beat you in any kind of way, whether it's their defense, their passing game, if they run a shootout, if they run a defensive game. The only question mark they really have is what can they do if they're a little off, if one possession game, when they get challenged, they get tested. They haven't been in that game this year. That's been the only bugaboo, I guess, on the car side. You look at it, but looking at Endicott, I think just a better team athletically. St. Thomas More is going to be in it because of their program, but Endicott is just going to have going away because from top to bottom, they look like the best team in the state, regardless. So I'm gonna go with Ed here, but St. Thomas More should give them a push at least. Daryl? You've actually seen Ed play as well. So,
Yeah.
what are your
You've
thoughts?
seen both these teams.
St.
Yeah,
Thomas
yeah.
More.
I was just about to say, I think this is probably one of the games that I have like the best feel for because I saw Edna Carr against St. Aug actually, who St. Thomas More just beat by a small margin, missed field goal, blocked field goal at the end, but they got the win, they pulled it out. But I saw St. Thomas More earlier in the season when they were kind of still struggling, but it was against a really good Catholic defense, and they struggled on offense. I mean, they were going through some tough things just as a whole on offense at the time, but the Catholic defense really shut them down. And I think that Carr is going to be able to do the same thing. And I mean, they're not because their offense is rolling a lot more now than they were at that point in the season. So I definitely think they're going to probably give Carr one of their toughest challenges this season. But I don't see Edna Carr losing this game. They've been so dominant over the whole season, and even against St. Aug, who St. Thomas More just had a really close game with. So I have to roll with Edna Carr.
What about you, Alex? What are your thoughts on this matchup?
I mean, Endicar's been smashing everybody. The worry would be, I think it's been really well outlined by you guys already. The worry would be what happens when they get punched in the face? What happens when they get into that game that is close? Do they know how to win a close game because they haven't had to do it all year?
Yeah.
And the argument for St. Thomas More is that the team is really, really good. Really, really good. And they've been, it was a close win against St. Aug. They barely got by St. Aug. But the general body of work in the back half of the season is fundamentally different on offense than what it was when Daryl saw them and when I saw them. Because I saw them play Acadiana. And they didn't score an offensive point in that game. And I've talked about that game a lot and about how St. Thomas More is just a different football team than they were then. So, with that in mind, St. Thomas More, if they can play to their ceiling, can give Endicott a game. And if they can give Endicott a game, we have not been proven that Endicott knows how to win a close game. With all that being said, that's no guarantee it'll be a close game. I'm the only one here who hasn't really gotten a good taste of Endicott so far this season. But I believe the scores that I'm looking at, and I believe the hype is real with this team. And while they're going to have to play some great teams, this is the best bracket in terms of just overall level of play in the entire state. It is fantastic, and St. Thomas More is an awesome football team, and they're really, really good. Endicott is going to have to prove it. They're going to have to prove they're the best team in the state of Louisiana if they're going to win the state championship. But I don't think they're going to fall here. I think they're going to win. I think they might even separate a bit, which I say that as if it would be surprising. It would not be surprising because it's Endicott. They do that to everybody. But St. Thomas More could make it interesting, absolutely. But I'll take Endicott to win.
You don't even have to see them play. Just see them get out with the rock. And okay, I don't have to see anything else.
I believe this.
You come out like that.
Yeah,
with that swagger and that attitude, I don't want to play that team. I mean,
take my word for it. I was ready to run through a wall after seeing their entrance. So I'm sure they're going to have the same energy. They know how big of a game this is, and they're going to show up for it.
All right, so it looks like we have Endicott, but don't sleep on St. Thomas More. I mean, great football program as well. Second winningest. We got the two winningest coaches in high school football history in Louisiana in this bracket. Jim Hightower is the second winningest head coach behind JT Curtis. So a lot of wins in this bracket. So we're going to move on to our second game, and man, we've seen some classics between these two teams in the playoffs before. Rumble and Catholic. We've seen Rumble defeat Catholic in the state championship game. We've seen Catholic defeat Rumble in the state championship game. So we've seen a lot of great matchups, including last year. As you can tell, we had a viral video. One of our most viral videos last year was a catch that was ruled an incompletion in that game against Catholic with Rumble. It turned out to be an incomplete pass. A lot of people saying, "Oh, this was a catch. That was a wrong call." A lot of people are saying it was not a catch. It was the right call. Maybe. I mean, you can judge it, but it's go back to your YouTube channel and watch it. You can. People are still commenting to this day. That wasn't a catch. That's a catch. To the year, we're about to have the same game again. So same place at Memorial Stadium. Hopefully, it doesn't rain. That'll be the only difference between this one. So we'll see if it rains or doesn't rain. But Mother Nature came into factor here. But we've seen some classic battles between Catholic and Rummel. Grant, before we talk about this game, I told Alex, you don't even have to watch car play. Just watch The Rock. And that should tell you everything that you need to know about in the car, because their swagger, their energy just coming out from The Rock. You don't have to watch him play. Oh, this team's good. You can tell from them coming out for The Rock. But for this game, Grant, Catholic Rummel, we've seen Rummel beat Catholic in the state championship game. We've seen Catholic beat Rummel in the state championship game. So once again, a lot of high stakes between both these two teams. They just always have to run into each other. So who you have with the advantage here?
First and foremost, before we get started, Alex, if you're listening, well, I know you're here, so obviously you're listening. But if Catholic and Carr come to the next game, you need to come have the Carr experience at Moorchef Stadium, wherever they may have the game. I don't know if they're going to have it in Moorchef, because Catholic has a lot of fans.
A lot of influence will be won. We'll have a rivalry won that matchup. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah. So, but anyway, if that matchup happens, please come down to New Orleans to get the Carr experience. Please come, sir. Yeah. But anyway. Just want to mention some quick stats here. So I actually did because I was doing research because I'm going to do an article about this matchup that's become a rivalry. I know they're they'll play this during the regular season, but this is basically like the Lakers and Celtics in the sense. Yeah. In terms of these teams, you kind of expect these teams to play together almost every year in the playoffs.
A modern example that reminds me of is like Bills Chiefs in the NFL.
Yeah,
I like Celtics and Lakers. Okay, Celtics and Lakers.
Yeah.
You want to know why? Because both those teams have won state championships. The Bills have not. That's why. That's why. And they don't like each other. Period. So Rummel and Catholic do not like each other because they always play. So, but in the last 5 meetings between Rummel and Catholic, Catholic's won 4 of the last 5. The only time that Rummel has won in this game was in the 2019 championship, and it took Donovan Kaufman single-handedly carrying Rummel to that state championship game.
Kickoff return for a touchdown.
Yeah, he had a walkout run for a touchdown, and he had the kickoff return for a touchdown.
Yeah.
Very one of the more underrated players in Catholic League history, in my opinion.
That was probably the best 2 teams in the state that year. That was a really good game.
Well, Carr was right there. I know there were 4 at the time, but Carr was
right.
Really, that was Carr that's what during Carr's dynasty. But anyway, but yeah, Catholic's won 4 of the last 5. Catholic has been to 7 state since 2015. They've been to 7 state championships. Rummel has been to has won 3 state championships, been to 4 since 2009. So these are 2 of the top teams in the state of Louisiana by none. And they both are very similar. Rummel lets to run the ball. Catholic lets to run the ball. They both are really good running backs. Rummel, Norman Taylor. Catholic, everybody, but the name that comes to mind, Jane Miles, begin a lot of pub. Both teams have fantastic receivers. Both teams have capable quarterbacks. Both teams have state championship winning head coaches. Mm-hmm. Just the list kind of goes up. They're both Catholic schools. So I guess you got to fill that in there as well.
That's what they are.
Yeah, but this game is, like I said, this will be the 6th meeting between these 2 schools. And there's probably been more, but in terms of the playoffs, this is the 6th time that these guys have met in the playoffs. Might be more, but in terms of my knowledge, but yeah, man, but I think, this game could go either way. They both play the game similarly, but I think Catholic will pull out in a tight one. I just think having them in Memorial Stadium, also I just think Catholic is. This is when they get really good, but Rummel has shown that they can score points now. I know they only scored 28 points against Carr, but they could have possibly scored more if they weren't for turnovers. But I think Catholic has got this in the bag. I think Catholic will win somewhere along the lines of 28-21, be a tight defensive battle, but I think Catholic has enough firepower to overcome Rummel's defense. But this will be a very good game, and it could go either way.
I agree with the Grant on this one as well. It's going to be a really close game. It can go either way. But I think I'm going to trust Catholic. They just find ways to win. Where you can, and they just find ways to win. And in these big playoff games, we've seen it before. I mean, Hudson Ford won a state championship in his first year. They've gotten hot last year, and I think they've evolved a little bit with their passing game. We knew they can run the football. They knew they can play defense, but I think they figured out the quarterback rotation using Baylor Graves as the passer, using Turner Goldsmith in some packages, run the football. And we talk about Jay and Miles, having him getting some packages that, in the Wildcat, and even throwing the ball a little bit too. So, I mean, they had just different ways they can beat you. Hudson Ford is one of the most creative coaches out there in terms of coming up with a game plan and find ways to win. Their defense is really tough. So they got a really good offensive line as well. These two teams are really similar in what they want to do. But I'm gonna go with Catholic with being at home in front of the home crowd, and in these playoff games, man. Even when there were games, I don't know how in the heck they won. They just found a way to win the game. So in this instance, I'm gonna lean with Catholic to find a way to get it done. But it should be a great playoff game.
Yeah, or you can go first if you want to. I know you've actually seen both of these teams, so you probably have a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean the run game for both teams was what stood out to me the most when I saw both teams. Jaden Miles, as you said, also Baylor Graves. It was early in the season, but he was really good in that game as well.
Yeah.
But I actually saw Rummel take down John Curtis, who actually just upset Acadiana. So I mean, they won some big games throughout the season, and I mean this is a legendary matchup. But I'm gonna give the edge to Catholic. Go ahead.
All right, Alex.
What's up, Grant?
I got positive information. So with the Rebels program, before I had to cut you off, Alex, but I just found this out, so I got so actually the all-time series, Rummel is down. So Catholic leads the series 5-4. They actually played each other. So before they started playing each other in the playoffs, they actually played each other 3 times in the regular season. One time was Rummel won the first meeting. The first 3 meetings, actually. The first meeting was a 2 overtime, 28-21 victory for Rummel. The 2013 they won 32-7, and then 2014 Rummel won 17-14. But since then, like I said, Rummel has lost 5 of the last 6 meetings, and that's when the Catholic dynasty really started to kick up.
It started with Catholic's first ever state championship. It was a game goal in 2015, so it started with that, and that was the point where Rummel was being talked about as the best team, one of the best teams in the country that year. So that's when they were able to defeat Rummel. That was a big upset at the time. But Alex, you can go ahead and it shows you what kind of close rivalry this really been between both teams.
Sure. First off, I do want to talk a little bit more about the rivalry in comparisons to, more nationally understood rivalries. 2 that come to mind is the Patriots Colts, like Manning Brady stuff from the 2000s. And then also, for a brief time in the 2010s, what it really reminds me of is Bama Clemson. Because these were 2 teams that kind of developed a rivalry despite never playing each other in the regular season every year. And, they always met in the playoffs, and it always felt like it had a huge determining factor in who would win the national championship for like a 5-year stretch in the middle of the 2010s. That's what this feels like. That's what this game is. They run into the playoffs every year, even though they don't schedule each other. These 2 teams, there is no love loss for these 2 teams, for Rummel and for Catholic. For the game itself, I watched Catholic early in the season in the Jamboree. I haven't seen Rummel all year, so I think you guys have a better grasp of these teams than I do, but my general feeling is that when we're talking about it's that Catholics always felt like the slightly better team. Not by a lot, but they're a team that has a lot of experience winning close games, which can go either way, but they just know how to win. And I think Jace put that really well. I think the game is going to be very close because it always is. It seems like it's always really competitive. It's going to come down to a few plays at the end. But I just have a little bit more confidence in Catholic making those plays than Rummel going into this game.
Yeah, that's pretty fair. But this definitely, I know we all picked Catholic, but this could definitely go the other way. I would not be that shocked at all. Let's go to the bomb side of the bracket with John Curtis and Turnings Catholic. John Curtis, we talked about. I even mentioned that this wasn't a great matchup for Acadiana just because John Curtis knows exactly how to defend the Veer offense because they run it themselves. And JT Curtis, it's hard to go against him. He's the greatest coach of all time, high school at the high school level. So it's hard to go against him. Now they got Turnings Catholic. Turnings Catholic has had a great season with Coach Aponte. They've been a Catholic type of team, right? Because they're physical. They like to run the football, play good defense. They're not going to be intimidated. But this is John Curtis. This is a great opportunity for Coach Aponte and Turnings Catholic to make the semifinals if they can do so. And if they can get past the but Grant, are you rolling with the Catholic League as well? Because I know they defeated Jesuit last week, able to avoid the upset. Can they do that again, or can the Catholic League overcome this? And John Curtis, I mean, I know you went against him last week. Do you go against JT 2 times in a row?
This is a favorable matchup. I think if Jesuit would have 1-1, I would have gone with Jesuit over John Curtis. But with Turlings, I might have to go with. I might actually have to go with John Curtis. John, of course, has been. We kind of knew that if they won their first pictures for the Martin, they had a shot on maybe making a run. But Acadian matchup, I know they run the beer, but Acadian very good all throughout the year. But the matchup with the Acadiana kind of gives John Curtis a new light, right? Because I mean, like I think Jason, you may have said this. I don't know. I was actually looking something up for something else, but John Curtis finished with the first losing season in the regular season since the first year of the program's inception, and that's the year when they went 0-10. And they've had, even though their defense has been awesome, their offense has struggled for the most part. They're going into the playoffs. They only scored 146 points all year.
Mm-hmm.
Right, the defense only allowed 149 points. The offense scored 146 going into the playoffs. So I think with the way that John Curtis was able to beat Acadiana late, I think and I think the way the defense has been playing all year long, I think they have a great shot at beating Turlings, and I think they will beat Turlings. However, this game could be a toss-up. Like I said, John Curtis is really struggling on offense, and they are turnover prone. So those things could go towards Turlings' way. And Turlings, matter of fact, did beat a Jesuit team that beat Curtis early in the year. So I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can look at it, but I think John Curtis will advance to semifinals, where I expect him to play Alexandria.
Yeah, I'm with you this time. I cannot go against JT. I was kind of hesitant to go against him last week at Acadiana, but that's how high praise I got for Acadiana. But this John Curtis team, if you're going to beat them in the playoffs, Brother Martin should have done it first round because you don't give JT Curtis and John Curtis this many cracks at it because they're going to eventually figure it out and find a way. And go ahead, Grant.
Jason, to put this in perspective, it's not the team I'm worried about. It's the head coach. That's what makes you hesitant, right? Same with Saban. Yeah, Alabama could be vulnerable. They could be going to the game. Alabama could be a 7-3 team going to the game, but you also know they have Nick Saban.
Yeah.
So that gives them a chance to,
early. You got to get them out early because I mean you give them a couple cracks at it, they're going to figure it out, and that's what John Curtis has done. And especially like you mentioned, Grant, their defense has been good all year long. I think their offense is finally starting to click together and it's starting to show itself. I mean, what they did to beat Acadiana with their passing game, score a touchdown with 10 seconds left to a freshman, and Reggie being able to make that throw, Reggie Johnson making that throw, that gives his offense some confidence moving forward in that type of point of the football game. So I'm going to go with John Curtis. I mean, I know they have to go to Lafayette again, make the travel to Turnings Catholic again. But John Curtis, man, I mean, once they get into the playoffs, they really start rolling. A couple of years, their last state championship game, we talked about in the car, we talked about Catholic. We didn't even talk about John Curtis, and guess who won the state championship? Curtis. So, we never can overlook John Curtis. So, I got to roll with the Patriots. I had Acadiana going to the Dome. They just lost. So, I have to go with John Curtis advancing to the semifinals, where we'll talk about the next game after that. But Alex, give me your thoughts on this because you saw KDN at their highest this year as well. And for John Curtis, that to beat them. What do you think about this matchup?
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts for a game between two teams I haven't watched all year. John Curtis. So John Curtis's average game this season was an average of giving up 14.9 points and scoring 14.6 points.
Yeah.
What? What kind of football is that?
Catholic League.
Big Ten West style, veer offense. We don't know how to throw the football. Nobody can throw the football, kind of sport here. There's a lot at play. These are two teams, because I think a lot of us kind of penciled in that it would be the other two teams in this bracket facing off in the quarterfinals going into last week. Yeah. We all thought it was going to be Acadiana, and basically everyone thought it was going to be Jesuit. Jesuit was a very fun, sleeper pick for the game over Turlings. I was the only one who took Turlings last week, I think, and I think we're a little bit. I think we're again a little bit early on. What's the word? Forgetting about them being like this awesome football team, right?
Yeah.
That's not like that's not a discredit to John Curtis or anything, because there's a lot at play with the John Curtis Acadiana game. A lot of my rationale. I'm going to take Turlings, so I'll say this. Okay. A lot of my rationale surrounds the fact that a lot of that is matchup. And Jace you did a great job, and you called the shot last week that you did take Acadiana, but you were the one that was like, hey, wait a second, let's actually talk about this. Because not only of the coach, which has been greatly discussed here, J.D. Curtis, greatest coach in Louisiana high school football history, one of the greatest high school football coaches ever, but also the matchup, that they understood the Veer offense just as well as Acadiana did because they played it themselves. I don't know if we're necessarily going to see, that is a one-time thing, right? Yeah. And it was a really close game. Those might not break the same way. It might not be replicable. That being said, there's a lot of weight to beating Acadiana. Doesn't matter how you do it. Doesn't matter why it happened. Doesn't matter if it was fluky or lucky or clutch or a player that you wouldn't expect to do it. Doesn't matter if you would repeat that game 10 times and Acadiana wins it 8 of those times. None of that matters. It's Acadiana. That is one of the best teams in the state of Louisiana. And it is completely reasonable that, especially with the head coach that is coaching John Curtis, for a lot of people to say that moves the needle. That now this is a team, not only can they beat Turlings, not only do they have a really good shot of beating Turlings, but we might be talking about who knows what happens beyond that. And we'll talk about that next week if they do get the win. With all that being said, I'll go ahead and take Turlings. It's ultimately, I think too much of it is difficult to replicate. And 28 points is asking a lot for John Curtis to score in a game, ultimately. And I think it's going to be really tough. I think it's going to be a really close game. I don't have a lot of confidence with the pick one way or another. Would not shock me in the slightest if John Curtis won. But I'll go ahead and take Turlings again. That I think we kind of forget about it because of the hype of an incredible result. Back-to-back weeks here. I think Turlings again at home. Not that the trip from New Orleans to Lafayette is particularly daunting. It's no Plaquemine, North DeSoto trip. South Plaquemine, North DeSoto trip. But yeah, so I will go ahead and take Turlings in this game.
Daryl, I know that I know we have Alex going with Turlings, me and Grant go John Curtis. Now, you've seen Turlings Catholic play in person as well, so you have a good idea what this Turlings Catholic team is. Looking at Turlings Catholic, do you agree with Alex? Do you think they can pull off the win against John Curtis?
Yeah, I actually am going to roll with Alex. I think this is maybe one of the first times that we're going to split down the middle and be 2-2. But yeah, I'm going to roll with Turlings Catholic. I mean, I think as he said, I think he was the only one to actually pick Turlings Catholic to beat Jesuit last week. Yeah. Even though I'm pretty big on Turlings Catholic, the one game that I did see, they played against Rain. They were super dominant on both sides of the ball. Dougie Viltz at running back, over 1,000 yards this season. I mean, he's looked really good. and their defense was locked down. They only allowed one touchdown besides the opening kickoff. But I that was a big win for them last week. I personally didn't expect them to beat Jesuit, but they did. They pulled it out, and it kind of showed me that, okay, they can win these games. But John Curtis did the same thing, and they took down Acadiana, who, was one of the favorites. So, it's really tough, and it's really tough. This is one of the toughest games, and
Really tough.
I might be biting my tongue when we join back next week for going against JT Curtis. But I'm going to roll with Turling's Catholic. I think they have a good shot, and I think if they play their best game on both sides of the ball, they can pull it out.
Jace, they're gonna learn. Jace, they're gonna learn.
They're gonna learn. Me and Grant have suffered before in the past because he's burned us so many times. So we're gonna see how that goes.
He's gonna burn you guys with the worst team that he's had in a while. Which I'm not saying worse. I don't mean they're bad. I mean the fact that this isn't usually with John Curtis teams. Usually with John Curtis teams, they have explosion. This is like the least. I would say they're not the worst. This is the least explosive John Curtis team that we've all seen in a while. They're just not explosive, which is partially why they struggle so much on offense. That they don't have the same explosion. However, they're great defensively, and that's something Curtis has always been. They've always been a very good defensive team. There's rare that you see a bad defensive team at a bad defense of John Curtis. Even when John Curtis is having a down year, their defense has never been the issue, right? It's usually been kind of the offense trying to get it together. It's not the offense doesn't have it together. It's just that they're not as explosive, and when you don't have that explosion, the Beer offense is not nearly as effective. You might get some yards, but you're not going to have the explosion you need to win games with the Beer.
Yep. So we're going to find out, and this is a great opportunity for Turner's Catholic, though. I mean,
definitely.
Yep. So we'll see how they do at home. I know it's going to be one of their biggest crowds they've had because they haven't had a game as big as probably as this one in a while. So there'll be a great game between John Curtis and Turner's Catholic. Now let's talk about their quarterfinal matchup. C.E. Bird.
I do have one thing to say before you get in that one.
Yeah.
Turling's Catholic was in the semifinals last year.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, those are two really big. Those are two Lafayette schools in the semifinals.
Oh, yeah.
Like, those are both pretty big games. But
you're right.
I think obviously how many times you get to host John Curtis. It's not many.
That was kind of my point there.
Yeah.
Especially them. They also that's another team that moved up from Division 2 to Division 1. So this is your opportunity to show that we're going to be here. We're going to be here to stay. So big opportunity there. Now, the final matchup, Ash and C.E. Bird. C.E. Bird was able to make a statement. That's a really good St. Paul's team, a veteran St. Paul's team. Beat them 37-15 pretty heavily as well. Desmond Simmons has been their kind of bell cow this year. He's been a really good running back for them. Another guy that we don't talk about as much, but he's been solid for them all year long. And we talk about Ash. Talking about statements too. That Evangel Christian offense has been going up and down the field all year long. The Pop Houston and all the weapons they have. And Ash's defense says, hey, we're not just about JT Lindsay in our offense. We're going to shut you out, too, on defense.
That was so good.
6 points to Evangel Christian. I did not see that one coming at all. He told me it was going to be 49-6. But that was a statement there. Ash is, with Acadiana out, Ash is definitely the favorite now to go to the state championship game. But C.E. Bird, they're another tough physical team that can give opponents fits. So I'm going to start off with Grant here. With C.E. Bird, the momentum that they're able to have on the road, getting a big one over St. Paul's, can that carry over to Alexandria? Or Alexandria, I guess now the favorite to reach the Superdome, can they continue this great run they've had all season long?
Oh, boy, this is a very interesting matchup. I will pick Alexandria. I had Alexandria go to the semifinals, so I'm going to stick with that. However, I do think the one thing that will make this interesting is because Seabird runs the Beer.
Yeah.
And Seabird will try to make sure that the ball doesn't get into Alexandria's hands as many times as the Trojans may want to. So if Ash wants to win this game, they got to shut down that Beer early, because if they don't, they're just going to keep running the same play and over and over and over again. And Seabird, like I said, they're kind of always say that Seabird of there's three teams that are kind of exempt from the Shreveport rule, really, which is North Dakota, as we mentioned earlier, because of Dennis Dunn, Calvary, obvious reasons, and then Seabird because they tend to make deep runs to the playoffs against teams that for example, like the better teams in South Louisiana.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You usually people like us in South Louisiana, we're kind of stickler about teams from Shreveport because teams from Shreveport, whenever they play teams from South Louisiana, they tend to lose. And that's true. I mean, like Airline was the best public school team was the best. Well, Captain Shreveport and Airline were the two best public schools from the Shreveport area last year, and then Captain Shreve lost by 2 touchdowns against Rummel in the second round, and then Airline got beat by Mandeville, who was a 21st seed in the playoffs. They were a 5-5 team going to the playoffs. So, it's just that's kind of what it is. I'm not saying I believe that, but there's a lot of people in South Louisiana that do believe that. But Seabird's kind of the exception because they usually play teams from South Louisiana early in the year, and that's why and then also they play in a really tough district. So come playoff time, they're usually playing these big type of games. I think this game will be interesting. I think Seabird will make this game close.
Yeah.
I think Alexandria will win something along the lines of 28-21. They expect this game to be closer than a lot. I think this game will be a lot closer than a lot of people think.
I totally agree with you. Just because of that veer, it's tough to defend unless you can really know it and how to defend it. It is tough to defend. I mean, just ask John Kurz. They won 28 state championships. So, I mean, worth running that. And a lot of teams like that run. Haynesville's the second winningest team with 17. They run a smash mouth offense just like that. So it's tough to defend an offense especially getting 3-4 yards every play. But Seabird's definitely going to try to shorten the game. Keep the ball away from JT Lindsay, keep the ball away from Carson Sellers, those wide receivers. But Alexandria, I mean, with the way that they're able to perform defensively, I think they can be up for the challenge to slow that Veer offense enough for their offense. Because, I mean, there's not a lot of teams that can keep up with Ash's offense. I mean, just ask Ruston, just ask Neville, just ask Western Road, all these teams that are in their bracket. Ash went undefeated in that bracket, which is in that division, which is saying a whole lot. So, I mean, the job that Thomas Bobbins's doing has been awesome. The way that they're balanced, not just JT Lindsay. They can throw the football and beat you throwing the football as well. So this offense is really dangerous. I think they are the favorite to go to the state championship in that bottom side of the bracket with the KDN now out. But they're going to get a little bit of a push from Seaburg. I think it's going to be good for this team in the long run down the stretch. So I think they'll get a little bit of a scare from Seaburg, but I think they're good enough to overcome it. And I think they'll find a way in the semifinals. So I'm going to go with – actually, both of y'all I've seen Ash play. So y'all have a good chance to see – talk about Ash and how good they've been all season long. I mean, Alex, you were there for the thrower of the two against Ruston, another team that we're high on. So looking at Ash and looking at Bird in this matchup, what your thoughts are, what you're thinking?
I had Ash before the bracket started winning the state championship in this bracket. So no surprise here, no shock. I'm taking Ash to win the game. I do generally agree with the sentiment, though, that I think this is the sort of game that will end up. I think the scoreboard. This also feels like the sort of game where the scoreboard, like the final score, might not tell the full story as to how close it is.
That makes sense.
I can see a game where Ash wins by like 10 or even 7, and it felt more like a 17-point win or a 20-point win because when you play against the Veer, it can feel really claustrophobic. The game can shorten. The game can get more volatile because of that, which is where I think if you're going to make an argument for Bird winning the game, that's how you make the argument, that it gets volatile and you can get a really, low probability outcome where Bird just scores in every red zone possession and Ash touches the ball, 3 times in the entire first half. And they all of a sudden they stare down the barrel of being down 17-3 while not actually playing bad football at halftime, and then enough things break Bird's way. But ultimately, I think Ash is just so good. I think this team is awesome, and this is we'll talk about it more if we get to that state championship game that it feels like people are assuming we're going to run into against Edna-Carr more there, and we'll talk about the state championship picks and all that. But Ash is This team is so good. They beat the Ruston game. I was at the Ruston game. One of my favorite games the entire season. Awesome environment, awesome game. That Ash home field is amazing, and that is going to make a difference in these playoff games. A team that is so hungry for this kind of success, for this undefeated dream season, that's going to matter a lot. And ultimately, this is a team that knows how to face a team that wants to win the line of scrimmage like Bird does. Because Russell wants to do the same thing. Russell wants to beat the crap out of you. Yeah. And Ash ultimately, after a first drive where they were kind of struggling, they, unlike a lot of defensive lines that will wear down throughout a game, they kind of got better throughout that game. Even though they were giving up points, they were able to bow up and continue playing really, really good defense. So I think there's a world where this game is close, actually close, or a world where this game is nominally close and Ash actually wins fairly comfortably, which I think is very likely to happen. But I think Ash will win.
All right, Daryl, you've seen them too, and you saw them dominate. Yeah, you said the more impressive win. You saw them dominate Neville to win the district championship and clinch the undefeated season district title. So, Daryl, what are your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, I kind of wanted Alex to go first so I could kind of get a refresher of his opinion of the Ruston game. Because, yeah, I mean, the game that I saw, they looked absolutely dominant on defense against a 9-0 at the time Neville team. And it was in the district championship, high stakes. And, I mean, as he said, that home atmosphere, the fans were packed out. And, I mean, everything about the game just felt like it was Ash all the way. But I will say the CE Birds win over St. Paul's really means something to me because I mean that was a big win on the road, 37-15. That's not a very close competitive game. So I mean they definitely have some momentum rolling. They've been playing, they never stop playing, and I mean I definitely think that they can go into Alexandria and give them a shot, but from what I've seen from Ash this season, I don't think this is where the undefeated season stops.
All right, guys. So this is a Division 1 select playoff quarterfinal matchups. Once again, for a last-minute refresher, Ash will play CE Bird. The game will be played at Alexandria. It will be raucous as ever. Terminus Catholic will take on John Curtis and make it semifinals. For Terminus Catholic, could be potentially back-to-back years. Catholic and Rummel taking on each other as well in the playoffs once again. And then we have Edna Carr taking on St. Thomas More, two of the teams that we've seen a lot hold the state championship hardware at the end of the season. So once again, this has been another great playoff bracket breakdown for myself, Joseph Shern, we had Alex Allison, Daryl Felker, and Grant Sastre at Crescent City Sports. Check us next time on another exciting edition of our playoff bracket breakdowns here on Ballin in the Booth.